So, welcome back to Nuskas with Anushka, where every story matters and every connection counts. Today, I have on board a truly remarkable guest, a specialist who helps everybody to overcome addiction, especially addiction to smoking. So, smokers out there, do pay some attention. So I think over the last 4 years, 4 plus years, he has guided more than 400 individuals to not only break free from these addictions, but also experience a profound shift in their health, relationships, careers, and the overall fulfillment. What sets him apart? इनका एक अलग ही अप्रोच है. ये अपने सेशंस को अनलिमिटेड वे में वन टू वन कॉन्वर्सेशनल हिप्नोथेरेपी के साथ दे ही टेक्स इट कि आपको ऐसे लगेगा इनके सेशंस में कि स्मोकिंग इज द लास्ट रिसोर्ट टू ऑल योर प्रॉब्लम्स. You would just not want to smoke again. So, yeah, he has an unwavering commitment to all his clients. And अगर आप एक safe organic space की तलाश में हो to eradicate the root cause of your addiction, आप सही जगह पहुंच चुके हो. So, let's welcome Coach Sunny Job. Hi, Sunny, welcome.
Thank you, Anushka. Thank you so much. Yeah, pleasure to be
So,
here.
same here. Thank you for joining in. Who should be watching this and ये किसके लिए है? Who will relate to this episode?
Not for all smokers, for sure. I see smokers in two categories. One who are smoking and they don't see any reason why they should quit, and they're okay with it. And for those guys, I have only love and only respect. Like there's no problem with that. But it's the ones who have been smoking and उनको एक question है कि यार छोड़ना है, कोशिश भी कई बार करी है, but they still keep going back to it. उनके लिए this episode is like perfect. They'll have a lot of information that might open up their mind to newer possibilities and also open up their mind to seeing something that they have not seen before about their addiction. कुछ नया सीखने मिलेगा यहाँ पे उनको.
That was quite sweet when you said कि मतलब सबके लिए नहीं है जो actually intentionally करना चाह रहे हैं it is just for them. And yes, I think somewhere खुद का भी intention होना चाहिए to get out of certain addictions. So before asking you the next question, I was just reminded of a quote by Mark Twain, and it goes like, giving up smoking is the easiest thing in the world. I know it because I've done it 1,000 times. So just
Yeah.
on a lighter note, I mean, I just wanted to ask you कि आपको ऐसा क्या लगा that you want to help people to quit smoking?
Um, I'll be honest about this answer. Like and it is that when I first started off, I started off with helping pretty much anyone who came to me. So if you even now go back to my accounts on YouTube as well as Instagram, you'll find in the success stories ऐसे भी clients है जिनको eating disorder रहा है and anxiety रही है, different kinds of issues. And what my mentor has always taught me is that all problems that we have as human beings, बिना किसी exception के, they all exist in our subconscious mind, which is outside of our awareness, right? So I used to help anyone and everyone who came to me with anything. And I was new with my skills like around 4.5 years ago. So when I approached a marketing team to put my message out there and get this going, they said the first thing in the form is that we need to niche down for you. Of course, we want to target people in the ads. And so then I had to really face that moment of truth. And then we did the research. I went back to my drawing board and I came up with two areas, which was either I go with all sorts of phobia, some specific phobia, work with that. And I have worked with that. Or I go with smoking, which I had worked with. So either of these two things and ek mein jate hain. So then there's a human part of me I decided, okay, smoking might just be surface level and I won't have to really sit there and go deep into in deep waters with people. It'll be easier for me. That's what I thought initially. So, and then I picked smoking. So, as they say in Mirzapur, that guy says, Bablu says, शुरुआत हमने की थी मजबूरी में, but अभी अब मजा आने लगा है. So, it became like that for me. I started off with having to pick a niche which I had to, but once I got into it, I realized that no, it's not surface level at all. This is it does take people into deep waters, and I do go with them in there. It's so much more than just what you see. Dhua se wo nahi hai. There's so much deep stuff happening in people for which they turn to smoking, and most people don't understand that about smokers, and unfortunately, a lot of smokers don't understand about that themselves. So yeah, it started off with me having to pick a niche for marketing, but I know you would be expecting a deeper answer than that, but this is the truth of it. But now that I've been doing this for a long time, I feel, yeah, I'm so glad that I get to do this, yeah, every day.
Interesting, and I'm just like happy that you said I mean, said it out loud with a lot of honesty that it was not per se ऐसे कुछ calling type का नहीं था कि I wanted to just concentrate on this particular thing. People did get like the marketing agency that helped you out figure your
Hmm.
niche, and I think it's a good cause. I mean, they helped you in the right way, and I think that you must have realized past your 4 years of practice. Smoking तो हम आज बात ही कर रहे हैं as an addiction, but there can be like numerous addictions that people get. So, I mean, I just wanted to understand from you that as a coach, since you have been into other types of coaching as well, apart from when you started with smoking, why do you think that humans get addicted to certain things? ऐसा क्या होता है like smoking को if we relate तो I know that the people I know do it for leisure. Some people do it because they're too stressed. But like why do you need to get addicted to something?
That's a good question. We need to bind with something. That's just I suppose, a part of human nature. We need to bind with something, and we will always bind with something. With addiction, what happens is I like the idea which Dr. Gabor Mate puts out, and I've seen this in my own personal walk as well as people around me who I love and my clients. It comes down to one thing, Anushka, and which is people are looking to escape, and we look to escape when we are suffering. And this suffering that I'm talking about doesn't necessarily mean that as a person who is going through it, he or she understands that they're suffering. They don't sometimes even know it. And that's a different category of people I work with. When people are suffering, they're looking to soothe themselves with something, obviously. And oftentimes that's just a relief, or oftentimes that's some kind of pleasure. It becomes an addiction when the person is already becoming aware that there's a consequence to that soothing or that pleasure they're getting. And then they're still choosing to go back and soothe or pleasure themselves. And that's a proper addiction. If anyone listening to this is wondering, am I an addict? I'm not sure. I smoke 10 cigarettes a day. Does that count as an addiction? It doesn't matter what number it is. But if you are aware that there's a consequence that you are going through right now because of smoking, or could happen in long term, if you know that, and you're still choosing that way of overcoming your suffering, and you're still going back to it again and again, that's an addiction right there. And it's only because we want to soothe ourselves and not sit with that suffering. Now, you can ask me all sorts of questions about what that suffering could be, and I could give you examples after examples from real stories. um, just to kind of substantiate that, from my own example, my own experience, when I was caught in certain kinds of addictive behaviors, my ex-wife, she said one day when she was in a much calmer tone, she said that, you do these things because you have pain. And back then, I hadn't done much work on myself or even explored what it is to dive within. And so I told her, I don't know what pain you're talking about. I do these things because I am an right. Like that's why I do what I do. Um, That's who I am. And it took me some time before I actually did some work on myself to recognize, well, there's a lot of pain I didn't know I had, and I was trying to soothe for that. I was trying to compensate for that, not feel them. And that's where a lot of us are caught. We don't even know that we are in pain. We just stuck in the cycle of addiction and the guilt and the shame that comes from it, and all the problems with that. So yeah, that's addiction for you.
I mean, that was quite deep, and definitely, people, like you said, we don't realize that we are addicted to something, and not मतलब एक negative tone नहीं देके I would like to say कि addiction not necessarily needs to be into the bad things. We are certainly addicted to like things like watching Netflix also. That also can be an addiction. Like you just want to go back and just keep binge watching. That is an addiction, which is also not good for your health,
Yes.
right? So, I mean, yeah, I mean, what you said, like you need another person to give you a introspection into what you are doing, what are your behaviors, what are your habits, and the kind of addiction that you've developed with certain things. If we now get into the nuances of just smoking as an addiction, can cigarettes, shisha, e-cigarettes, vapes, cannabis, all of these fall under the umbrella of smoking as an addiction? And if yes, like how can one quit smoking to, or do something to, control their urge to smoke?
Yeah, there's so many layers to that question. Yes, in my own experience, I have helped people with all these different things you mentioned just now, vaping and also cannabis. Shisha per se, I haven't had anyone particularly come out and reach out to me for help with that, because most of the time it's understood that shisha, at least in India, it's done on occasions, not like on a daily basis like it would be done in the Middle East. Um, to answer your question about the urge, in fact, like when we speak about the urge, what's important to notice is that urge is just a word. And if you were to ask any smoker, what do you mean by urge, they'll be looking at you as if they expect you to understand what that urge is. Ki talab kya cheez hai? Like, you know what I mean. That's what they think. But अगर उनको आप पूछोगे कि exactly what do you know, please tell me, what do you mean exactly? And they would need to then bring their attention from outside to inside and actually check what exactly is going on. And oftentimes हम लोग जो words use करते हैं तलब या urge, it is just a word to express an experience that we are having, and that experience is very different for different people. For example, कोई smokers के गले में खराश आती है and they feel some kind of an itchy feeling in the back of their throat, dryness. Some people have weird feeling in their stomach. Some people have weird feeling in their hands. Some people have weird feeling in their head. So सबका अपना अपना experience है, एंड वो फीलिंग आने से पहले ही द माइंड इज प्रिपेयर टू अवॉइड इट. सो टू आंसर योर क्वेश्चन हाउ टू डील विद दिस is not so much about putting your will. People say will nahi hai mere mein, willpower kam hai mere mein, but the willpower is being applied in trying to stop yourself from smoking or reduce the number of cigarettes. And it's not their fault. यही information internet पे मिल रही है आजकल कि go and stop your smoking or reduce the number of cigarettes. You call the 1800 number on the cigarette pack, they give you the same damn information. So, and people end up thinking कि मेरा willpower weak है. No, your willpower is good. You have to use it to not force yourself to stop or reduce your cigarettes, but use your will to apply your attention on what is happening with you. ये आपकी body है, your experience. Pay attention before you pick that cigarette. Not saying don't smoke, by all means go for it, but before you pick that, just take few minutes to sit with that experience, because you're not going to die. It's just a little bit of discomfort, but face that experience. What is it for you? And just like anything in nature, any experience, is raining right now, it has a beginning, it has a peak, and it has a fall. What it needs is you to sit there and experience, because it is your experience. No one else is having that. You are having it. So ये करने के लिए ही बहुत लोगों से they can't do it because attention focus span nahi hota humse ye. And a lot of stuff can come up for us and we feel ki nahi yaar, it's not worth it, let's just burn another one. So to answer your question, how to handle the urge, it's using your will to not quit but to stay with your experience. अगर वो urge है, अगर वो तलब है, तो stay with that. क्या है वो? Thoughts will come up, feelings and emotions will come up, and your sensations will come up. If we can stay with that and observe and actually write down what that observation is, you will learn so much about yourself. And eventually, as you keep doing that, you will see that it's nothing but a bunch of sensations you're trying to avoid. So yeah, that's a way to go about at least starting it on your own. This would be the way to apply your will.
Now, here, I mean, since I was listening to you, it was a very interesting take that you've said it. And I just want to reiterate it so that, I just like to
Yeah,
understand that I have understood what you've just said. So basically, अगर किसी को हो रहा है, like तलब हो रही है to smoke, तो basically आपने stop नहीं करना है. When you are smoking, आपको बस उसको experience करना है. Be in the
yeah,
moment when you're smoking the cigarette and experience the whole experience and write it down कि आपका क्या
yeah,
experience रहा है while smoking that cigarette. Am I right?
yeah, yeah. Stay with your experience.
Okay. So, and that's how you mean कि when you stay with your experience and when you write it down, that's how you start realizing what is happening and what are those, feelings or emotions that are going on while you are smoking a cigarette.
Yeah, it's something like people call urge, talab. इन चीजों को हमने कुछ एक खराब नाम दे रखा हुआ है, right? um, अगर हमारे अंदर एक एक्सपीरियंस है जिससे let's say my heart rate is going up, and that's what I call as my time to smoke. Let's say practical example, meeting से पहले anxiety आ रही है, it's a very high powered meeting, I need to be prepared, I'm the main guy delivering some facts and figures, so now shoot, like I have to smoke, right? That feeling you're having right now, it's pulsating through you, वही तुमको इंडिकेशन दे रहा है ना कि तुमको स्मोक करना है. That experience is important for us to experience, to sit with that and to feel through that. It's just your life force, it's your chi, it's your shakti trying to regulate you. Whatever is inside of you, it's just coming up. और उसको avoid करने की जरूरत नहीं है. We have this addiction not to substance, but this addiction to this weird notion that हमेशा सब अच्छा ही होना चाहिए, and अच्छा means pleasant. But life is not like that. It's day and night, it's a mix of everything, and so our experience is like that. When it comes up and we try to avoid it, it's not going anywhere. We're just accumulating it at some point in our life. It'll all come due. बोलते हैं ना कि uh, when the rooster comes to there is a English saying, it all comes due at some point. तो आप उसको escape तो नहीं कर सकते. But when you sit with that, you are actually allowing life to flow through you and regulate you. Think of it this way, right? I'm in Bali right now, so there's volcanic mountains everywhere. If there's a volcanic mountain about to erupt, imagine if I could even do this crazy thing, if I could put a big lid on top of the mountain and stop it, क्या हो जाएगा? If I can stop the volcano from erupting, it's going to disrupt everything around that. All the villages will be disrupted, right? But when the volcano is allowed to erupt, it comes out. It has a beginning, a peak, and then a fall, and then after that there is peace. That's that's the earth trying to regulate. And हम लोग क्या earth पे नहीं है, हम लोग earth के ऊपर नहीं है, हम लोग earth ही हैं. We are this planet. We are it. And so the same mechanism runs through us. जब चोट लगती है तो फिर we start healing ourselves. जब body में we get a burn, we have a blister, we start healing ourselves. When we have emotions like about to give a high powered meeting, कहीं ना कहीं बचपन में वो रहा है, स्कूल में you have to stand up in front of your class and the spotlight is on you. ये सारी चीजें trapped है हमारे अंदर, and this is what is trying to show up and come in that feeling or the sensation you're feeling. जब आप उसको push down करते हो, you're repressing it, you're not letting it come up. Maybe you can perform well at that point in the meeting with the help of the cigarette, but that stuff has not gone anywhere. आपने उसको allow ही नहीं किया आने को. You've disrupted that eruption of the volcano. But when it comes out and you sat through it, it will calm down, and then you will have a true connection, true peace. वहां से you can really express yourself and go for it. But वो हम आने ही नहीं देते. We can't experience a true peace because we don't allow it to even come up. And this is nervousness, sadness, pain, sorrow, trauma, everything हम सब उसको दबा दबा के रखते हैं. So most people are walking around with that disconnection from the peace that is there within them.
I think it's like a easier way for people to get out of tough situations. Like you said, मतलब meeting हो, relations हो या कोई stressful situation हो. So you just like it is a very common thing you हमारे human beings के लिए it's in our nature कि we don't want to face it out, right? हमें ऐसा लगता है कि वी हैव अदर प्रायोरिटीज इन लाइफ, काफी अलग इंपॉर्टेंट चीज है तो उनको पहले ध्यान देते हैं. हम खुद को, हमारी हेल्थ को वी कीप इट एज अ लास्ट प्रायोरिटी. And that's why I think the experience that you're talking about the analogy that you gave about the volcano erupting, and let it erupt, let it feel, let yourself feel it. वो नहीं हम कर पाते बिकॉज हमारे पास उतना टाइम ही नहीं है खुद के लिए. We have other important
True,
things to do in life.
true.
So, since like Abhi, pura conversation was revolving around how a person can himself or herself try to, understand their patterns, and that's how kind of give up on smoking or reduce smoking and understand. But like, why
Hmm.
do smokers who quit cold turkey eventually end up like relapsing again and again and again? Like the quote also, I said that I've like it's easy because I've done it 1,000 times. That means like we understand that it was like a repeated attempt, but it was a failing attempt. So what are your thoughts on this?
It goes back to someone focusing on what is not the problem. Smoking is never the problem. It's just something that we are using to avoid being with ourselves. For example, मेरे लिए smoking कोई problem रहा नहीं है. Okay, for me it was about certain kind of behaviors like accessing pornography or being in sexual addiction. That was me coping. And जितनी बारी मैंने कोशिश की है क्योंकि I'm gonna just avoid this and win over this and then my life will get better, it never did. I could win over it for 3 months, 6 months, but it never got better. And then I wondered कि मतलब फिर प्रॉब्लम है क्या. मतलब I've tried to force myself and do this but नहीं हो रहा ये. That's when I started working on myself and I started taking help from others, like you said even about the last topic. खुद से नहीं हो पाता ये because we don't have sight to everything about ourselves. We need people who can see us and reflect back at us. So when I started taking support from others, I was able to see that yeah, there is deeper issue, and ये what I've been doing is just a way to not deal with this stuff. And मुझे पता भी नहीं था कि ये सारी चीजें हैं because my attention was so locked on the cycle of doing it, feeling guilty, not wanting to do it, then wanting to do it, and then doing it, and then feeling guilty, and then that's a loop that people are stuck in. Now, उसमें आप कोई भी addiction लगा लो, it doesn't matter. That's a loop that you will see most people are stuck in. But when you pull them out of that and you show that हो क्या रहा है भाई, like what's really going on for you, and that's when they're able to see it. So most of the time, cold turkey people think that they'll force themselves into submission, but वो same ही होता है कि you haven't gone into finding out why are you doing that in the first place, because there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with you trying to find peace, is there? There's nothing wrong with trying to find peace. We all are seeking that, but we are looking for that peace in a place where it is not going to come from. And कितनी बार ही हम लोग रिपीट कर ले वो एक्सपीरियंस, हमको पता चल रहा है कि नहीं मिल रहा वहां पे. इट्स ओनली गिविंग मी लाइक अ few minutes of relief, and then there it is, I'm back feeling everything I'm feeling I don't want to feel, and then I'm looking for it again. कितनी बारी कर लो, you go back to the same thing and they think that नहीं अभी इसको निकाल देंगे तो I'll have peace. but the reality is that the peace is always there in you, and would you're not allowing it to come through. And क्यों नहीं करते हम ये? Because a lot of the stuff that is sitting on top of that piece is the stuff that we have concluded is dangerous for us. Dangerous यानी कि we think, our subconsciously we think कि ये चीजें अगर हम लोग इसे डील करने लग गए तो we could die. Like that's literally how dramatic our subconscious can be about it. Like, oh, if I go there I could die, because some of these emotions are trapped from our childhood, and most of them in fact. So there's fear. हमको वहां पे जाना ही नहीं है. And so no matter how much you attack that painkiller, which is a smoking in this case, आपने अगर डील ही नहीं की कि पेन कहाँ से आ रहा है, तो पेन किलर को आप निकाल लो, that pain will be back again and you will go back to it again. So that's the reason why we keep coming back to smoking again and again. And here's the thing, a lot of smokers think that their friends just gave up smoking by deciding, but reality ये है कि उनको उनके दोस्त का लाइफ, they don't know what their life is like, क्या हो रहा है उनके लाइफ में. They only know this one sample. I get to see from the bird eye view where people who have quit smoking, they come to me and they ask for support because now they have picked up some other habit. कुछ और ही habit उन्होंने बना रखा है. You see, it's one painkiller of soothing is gone. They have picked something else to soothe, but they haven't dealt with what are they soothing from. वो क्यों आपको soothe करना है उस चीज को. So you may not know this about your friends when they say, I've quit smoking. You don't know what their motivation was. One of my friends quit smoking after 12 years of smoking just one night because he saw in his cough blood and something really brown and disgusting. He got so scared of it, he just gave it up. So people have different motivation that they'll not talk to you about. So when we compare कि हाँ वो उसने छोड़ दिया तो उसमें विल पावर है, मुझ में नहीं है, this is all barking up the wrong tree, because smoking never is the main problem. It is just a painkiller that we are using to soothe ourselves. What is the need for soothing? वहां पे investigation होना चाहिए.
सो बेसिकली लाइक यू आर ट्राइंग टू से कि हम जैसे आपने इनिशियली बताया था कि एक अटैचमेंट हो जाता है, यू वांट टू होल्ड ऑन टू समथिंग एंड दैट्स व्हाई यू हैव अ सर्टेन एडिक्शन, फॉर एग्जांपल स्मोकिंग राइट नाउ. And now, if you want to quit smoking, you kind of attach yourself to another thing so that you quit from one thing, and that also can turn into an addiction. So, the root cause
Yes.
here is to not hold on to something, detach from things, and or probably like have a better habits per se in a positive sense, which is like relating to your health, exercising, being mindful about all the things that you're doing. Basically, I think being mindful, like not even stopping everything, but being mindful of what you're doing.
Yeah, being mindful. And I would say, looking at it in a positive negative sense, I actually am not a big fan of positive negative, because i'm more of I'm a realist, right? So I look at it as what is beneficial for you and what is not beneficial for you. And as I said in the beginning, कि आपको किसी ना किसी चीज को bind करना ही है. That's what you need. And in yoga, we say that before you bind yourself to the divine, you need to bind yourself with you, like yourself, right? Um, and that's the beauty of it. Like when you are staying true to what is happening with you. अगर आपने सिर्फ एक simple decision आज ले लिया कि okay, here's what I'm going to do, whatever is happening with me, whatever life throws at me, can I just be present? Like, can I just be, like you said, mindful, right? Can I just be mindful and present to whatever is happening without necessarily having to label it as positive or negative or good or bad? It is what is happening to me. And I can tell you with at least 1,500 hours of clinical therapy experience, not a single person in my session has died. It never happens. Like you can experience anything and you'll never die. You're not gonna like lose your shit. But people think that something critically dangerous like death could happen to them if they feel it, and that's how ridiculous our fear is. But if you sit through that experience, no matter how ghastly it may look to your mind, and I've seen people bring up some of the thoughts and experiences that could be quite sad and quite dark, and they sit through that and they face it and they cry and stuff comes up and they're like, yeah, I feel so much relief. I didn't give it to them. That's the state they had, but उन्होंने कभी उसको आने ही नहीं दिया ऊपर. So that's the thing. It's everything in life is an experience. It's a feedback, it's a reflection. If we simply sit back and watch it and not try to push it away, the resistance to those things, where cigarette comes as a very interesting uh, thing to avoid. Another example to help our audience understand this is, how we use tiger balm when you have headache. Tiger balm never really heals anybody. It doesn't have healing property. What it does has a very strong menthol in it, right? Very powerful menthol. So when you got a migraine, for example, and you put tiger balm on your head, what it does is the menthol on your skin is so strong, it stimulates your skin, and your attention, right? That's the whole game. Your focus is drawn towards that menthol, and it drowns the pain beneath that experience of coolness of the heat, or the heat of the menthol. It's not taking care of the pain, it's not taking it away, it's not allowing you to investigate the root cause. It just distracts you or deviates your attention from that, and people think that's relief. Maybe in short term it is, but that's not the solution. That's exactly how cigarette works. That's not healing.
I think yeah, it's like it's a lot to do with it's everything to do with psychologic. I mean, how psychologically things
Yeah.
play into your mind, and it's same if you even if you want to do weight loss, for example, like you इफ यू आर जस्ट हैविंग होम फूड जैसे घर का खाना खा के आप ट्राई करो वेट लॉस करने का तो आपको वो रिजल्ट ही नहीं दिखेगा बिकॉज आप कुछ चीज मतलब पर्टिकुलरली कुछ दवाई या कुछ नहीं ले रहे हो उसके लिए वही इफ यू नो यू हैव समवन गिविंग यू दिस पर्टिकुलर थिंग या फिर इफ यू हैव अ पर्टिकुलर डाइट सो यू फील कि हाँ मैं कुछ कर रही हूँ उसको लेके तो मेरा वेट कम हो रहा है but you never know if it's actually happening or not happening. Same for the example as we spoke about cold turkey. उसमें भी आपको लग रहा है मैं कुछ मतलब कुछ कर रहे हैं नहीं कर रहे इज लाइक दैट साइकोलॉजी दैट प्लेज इन कि मैं कुछ नहीं कर रहा हूँ तो शायद नहीं होगा मुझसे क्विट करना तो मैं let's just smoke only करके. So that way.
Hmm.
Tell me, what is the average amount of salary a smoker would spend just on smoking in a month?
Based on my experience, typically I would say anywhere around one pack is what I see on an average people smoking. 8 to 10 a pack a day. A pack in India is anywhere in the range of 100 to 200 rupees, roughly. And so, based on my estimates, in a year, a guy who's smoking one pack a day would end up spending around 61,200 rupees, roughly. Yeah, so monthly, you could break that down to whatever that comes to, maybe 5,000 ish something.
So like
And so that's a number, yeah,
5,000 for a month.
roughly, yeah.
Okay. That's not too much, I guess.
Um, I mean, just to give you perspectives, like I've had people, when I'm answering this question, actually, what's really important to see is that it's not the number that people spend on smoking, but what they can't see. ये number आपके account में दिखता है, okay, 5,000 है, end of the year it's 60,000, 61,000. Now, 61,000 could buy someone a good break with his family of 2 or 3 people, maybe on a weekend, right? Or maybe a week's long break. Oftentimes, जो smokers उनसे बात करते हैं, तो one of the issues they have is a lot of disconnection with their family members. And they hope that they could actually take out the money and the time. सो टाइम भी बच रहा है और पैसे भी बच रहे हैं. ये सारी चीजें हैं जो वो अप्लाई नहीं कर रहे हैं वहां पे. An example is a guy who had come to me recently. He was making about 20,000 rupees a month. That's not a lot of money in India. मुझे पता है ये. I understand this. But here's the thing. वो महीने के he was spending around 3,500 to 4,000 rupees from that little salary on smoking. But what was interesting is that for the last 3 years that he was smoking, he also had a startup on the side that he started already, and he was making about roughly 10, 15,000 rupees on the side. But he knew कि अगर वो अपना time उस पे लगा रहा है, and if he puts his attention on that, he could potentially and easily, like उसके हाथों में है ये, he could easily make about 1 lakh rupees a month from that. और ये 3 साल से पड़ा हुआ है इसका आइडिया, which is working in some ways, it is making him some money, but he is not putting in his full throttle into it. तो 3 सालों में he has not just lost whatever money he's spending on smoking, which is roughly 45,000 rupees a year. But what he has actually lost is about 36 lakh rupees, which he would never see in any bank statement. Or yahi hota hai, people don't realize that that lack of motivation or that laziness they feel or lack of drive because of smoking, and they're not taking action on some things, जो losses आपके हो रहे हैं, जो opportunities आपके loss हो रहे हैं, उसका आपने कैलकुलेट किया ही नहीं है, वो कभी दिखेगा नहीं आपके स्टेटमेंट पे आप. और दैट्स मॉनिटरी. Since you're asking about numbers, no one sees these things. There are people who come to me and they say, well, I um, have been wanting to do a course to improve myself and to put myself out there and upgrade my resume, get a certification. And I ask them, okay, तो फिर ये करने के बाद में what is your expectation of your CTC increase? Just do a math. And they say like I'm expecting 60% increase. Okay, so have you done the math? It goes into several lakhs of rupees. And I ask them, how long have you been sitting on this idea? Oh, well, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. So you see, it just adds up to that. So it's not just about the actual money people put on smoking, which by itself is not less. It can buy a decent vacation of a week, and that's not just about vacation. If it's solo, it's about searching your soul. If it's with family, it's about connecting with those people who are close to you and investing in them and making memories that last for a lifetime. It's about these things, not so much about the money that cigarette costs.
True. It's. I think at the end of the day, it's also about the opportunities lost, like you mentioned
Yes.
some of them. कि and मतलब आप तोल मोल लोगे सब कुछ तो एट द एंड ऑफ द डे वो पैसे पे ही आ जाती है बात. यू कैन एक्चुअली टर्म इट इन मॉनेटरी टर्म्स कि it's like it comes out to be bigger amounts, and it's not just like 5,000 as we see in our bank statements. That was
Yeah,
interesting.
massive,
Yeah,
massive. Like
massive.
that guy was making 20,000 rupees a month was actually sitting on 1 lakh rupees a month. He could have easily quit that day job which he was bored of anyways, and he could have gone for his heart's passion, which he loved it. He created that and made more money from it. But you know why he was not dealing with that? Because he was smoking to deal with stuff that's coming up for him. He was smoking to deal with emotions. He was smoking to deal with loneliness. वो वहां पे तो काम है. That's why you need to deal with.
Right. It's I think ऊपर ऊपर से काम नहीं है. It's a lot to do with your inner self also to
Yeah,
actually quit smoking, and not for the sake of quitting smoking or any addiction.
yeah, you're right.
So, recently, a few days back, I was just reading up the news and I came across this particular news कि the group of ministers on GST rates rationalization decided to increase the tax on sin goods. And now they also refer sin goods as aerated beverages, cigarettes, tobacco products, and they like. So they plan to increase the percentage of GST from 28 to 35%. And because of this news, it was like a massive news. But the share prices have dropped of companies like ITC, Godfrey, Philips, and Charminar, maker VST Industries. So they almost like fell down to I think around 3% something odd. So that was like just like one statement, and it had such a massive breakout. So, as a coach, like, since you understand the reasons why people smoke, do you think it's a good news for you and it would help you out in your cause?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. And this whole idea of sin, the word sin gets my goat every time. Being born in a Catholic family, it has sent me down such strange ways of living for many years, because whatever we label as sin and wrong and bad thing, I mean, let's be real, we want to try those things out. Like, there is a part of her at least wants to know. Just like the example of do not touch wet paint. Wherever you see on that bench, you want to go and touch it to test if it's still wet. It's the same case with us. So, although governments have been doing this in different part of the world, in India also government has been increasing the tax rate and everything. It doesn't really curb down uh, the habit. People still will complain and still buy and smoke that. And I have seen this in front of me, like from my parents to my grand uncle to my clients, they all do the same thing. Now we're talking about a product in India itself. You look at the numbers, we're talking about something that is year on year a industry of $12 billion USD, and that's growing at 4 to 5% without any marketing. Like it's still selling, right? So is it really helping? Clearly not. And the government may have its own intention to do this, but it doesn't take a genius to see that by increasing the tax it stops. But what we could actually need, what we do need, is what countries like Portugal have done. And they've done this with hard drugs, of course, like we're talking about heroin and crystal meth, but they haven't really made it legal, but they have decriminalized that. What they actually did was they created systems where people who are addicts are more involved. They are involved in the community. They're given ways to have more skills and get employment. We're talking about hard drugs here, not cigarettes. But that is one way. Acceptance is one way of letting people in. Bringing them together is one way of helping them heal. But the more you try to label something as sin and bad, even if you increase the price, you can take it as much as 50% tax, it'll still sell. And so, talking about stocks, I mean, I would not personally invest in that stock, but if someone were to like want to invest, I'm pretty sure it will come up. It's just the news that has made the stock plummet, but it will eventually just correct itself and come up as well, because smoking, people will still want to soothe themselves with something that gives them quick gratification, and smoking is always number one with that. It's 250% more dopamine than the baseline. That's huge amount of dopamine coming through. So people are not going to give that up so soon because taxes have gone up. Government will make good money with that for sure.
I'm sure of that. I mean, even after regulations तो बहुत है देखो, we know that even when we see like a cigarette packet उसमें लिखा रहता है it's harmful for your health, it will cause XYZ things, it can lead to death and everything, but still, like, are we bothered? हम तो वो पैकेट पढ़ते भी नहीं है, like we just know the, I think people just recognize the packets with the colors, the brands with the colors, I would say, and that's it. मतलब वो एक साइकी में बैठ गया है लोगों के, and you just don't bother to read what's actually there. Even in movies हम देखते हैं, हम जाते तो है movies देखने, वहाँ पे अक्षय कुमार की एड भी
Mukesh,
आती है,
Mukesh,
फूफू, या मुकेश इज देयर, अक्षय कुमार इज देयर, फूफू करने में क्या हीरोगिरी है एंड ऑल ऑफ दैट.
yeah.
बट अगेन आई थिंक इट्स नहीं, उससे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ रहा है लोगों को. पीपल who want to do will do it, like no matter what. But ठीक, it's a good initiative by people, by the government, and we definitely need certain things as initiatives. Without that, I think फिर तो there'll be a complete blanket around this whole concept.
Yeah, I mean, the government has to do something, and they're doing something. But when it comes to ourselves as people, what are we doing? Like, and I would say for the individual, so the government will do what it needs to do at its level. But it all boils down to my experience of life today. And for you, it's what is the experience of Anushka in her life. And so goes for any listener over here. Like, what's his or her experience? Wahan pe to everything is from there. The life is unfolding from your individual experience, anyways, right? The government will do its part, and we've got to do our part to see ki, हाँ मेरे लिए क्या, like what is going on for me. At the end of the day, ITC or whichever company it is, they are making their money. they know that your desire is coming not from a bad place. It's a natural desire, and they're raking off it. Just like think of it, you know, um, of beauty products that are like selling fairness, for example. Like, what is that? It's the desire to feel good in your skin is not a bad thing, but it's that insecurity which is being sold. And it's funny because when I go to the West, people over there want to be dark and they have insecurity about their skin being too fair and they want to tan themselves. We come to India, we want to get fair. So it's we're just we're just trying to fulfill something, and it's we're looking at it from the outside instead of just understanding that it's as simple as just being with ourselves and figuring out what's going on for me. So yeah.
It's you have to get out of that notion of, I mean, खुद को just I feel खुद का importance should be the main thing कि just see how things are affecting you as a person. भेड़ चाल में मत चलो. And on this point, like it reminds me of this such cultures where people don't even want to smoke, but they are still working in such companies. They have no other option but to smoke. I mean, they just start smoking because there's this peer pressure जो build हो जाता है. And मतलब
Hmm.
वैसे होता है कि you have this feeling of the fear of missing out या फिर feeling of being left alone and not being included in the social circle. So now, love
Hmm.
to put up my question is that firstly, I want to understand कि ऐसा क्या logic है behind chai with smokes? ऐसा कुछ particular है
Hmm.
or is it just like a thing that has been going on? And secondly, is it true that people do not want to quit smoking because they're afraid to lose their friends or being not being a part of their social circle?
Yeah, I think the question जो तुमने frame करा हुआ है अनुष्का, it is very well speaking the mind of a smoker. Okay, because it doesn't entirely carry the truth कि they don't have an option, but I understand the way you framed it is for them to connect कि हाँ option actually है ही नहीं कुछ इसके अलावा, but वो reality नहीं है. In fact, there are many options besides that. So let's look at the first part of the question first कि corporate world में chai-sutta, like, and I've been in that world for more than 12 years, and I know that culture, I know how it works. But anyone who is watching this in the corporate world, they can themselves just assess that very simple to know the truth about it, right? Anyone who's on top in their company, like, do they necessarily smoke or drink chai together or be in that group? And you will have the answer that maybe some of them, yes, they do chai-sutta and they are in the leadership today, but a lot of them in leadership are actually not doing chai-sutta. So that there itself, that argument goes flat कि अगर आपको आगे बढ़ना है, अगर आपको नेटवर्क करना है, कम्युनिकेट करना है, आपको ऑफिस की पॉलिटिक्स के बारे में टॉप में रहना है, तो you need to smoke chai-sutta and then only you'll have it. Not true. And if you look at the some of the best leaders in the country, best leaders globally, they actually are very, very concerned about their health, especially in our times. Gone are the days when the CEO was like a fat guy, and no, they're not fat cats anymore. They're the ones who run in triathlons because they are winning over their mind before they can win over the entire organization. So now we are in that culture. So more and more we're seeing leaders are proper leaders of their own constitution, starting with their own body, and then they command respect in the organization. So if you are someone who is able to maintain that level of uh, stability in the corporate pressure without having to depend on substance, people may think or say you're not so cool to join them, but in their heart, subconsciously, they are doffing their hat to you, boss, like you are something. तुम कुछ तो सही कर रहे हो. So yes, in the short run, आपको लग रहा है कि आप लॉस कर रहे हो, and your immediate boss is going out to smoke with your colleague who's a junior who's your level. सबर रखो, पेशेंस रखो. your decision to take care of yourself and be the leader in your space is going to pay off. It will, because there are many examples out there who are doing that, right? So you're saving your energy. The second part of the question which you said कि क्यों होता है ये, and here I would say anchoring करके कोई चीज है, there's a thing called anchor, and it's very important for us as human beings to have anchors, right? हम काफी सारे हैबिट्स एक के ऊपर एक स्टैक हो जाती है, एंड वी एंकर देम. सो आई आस्क स्मोकर्स व्हेन दे कम टू मी कि आप कब स्मोक करते हो, एंड दे विल से स्टफ लाइक, they'll give answer in two parts. They'll say timing. सुबह उठते ही करता हूँ, बाथरूम में जाने के लिए करता हूँ, चाय के साथ में करता हूँ, नहाने से पहले, नहाने के बाद, इन द कार, इन द ऑफिस, ब्रेक के टाइम पे. They'll give me all of their itinerary, the schedule. And they'll also give the second part where they'll say emotional states. जब मुझे बहुत एंजाइटी होती है तो मैं स्मोक करता हूँ. जब मेरे पार्टनर के साथ में या वाइफ के साथ में मेरा बहुत बड़ा आर्ग्यूमेंट होता है तो आई नीड अ स्मोक. लाइक विदाउट इट आई विल लूज माई शिट एंड आई विल से समथिंग नास्टी. तो मुझे बाहर जाके स्मोक करता हूँ तो आई फील लाइक ओके आई कैन हैंडल सिचुएशन नाउ. सो फॉर एग्जाम्पल, राइट, anchors. So some people when they're having chai, which is sugar, and it has caffeine, and when you combine that with cigarette, which is high level of dopamine, it helps. When you have dopamine, what it does for you is that it makes that good feeling of sugar and caffeine push a bit higher. Like it combines, it adds with that, it feels really nice. Same thing, like going back to what I said at the beginning of this conversation that we had, that people do it to either get relief or get pleasure. So it's either running away from pain or going towards pleasure. ये दो ही चीजें हो रही हैं. Okay. So smoking with chai is that adding to that pleasure and sustaining it a little longer. So it's anchored. So जैसे आप चाय पीते हो, now you feel like smoking. और आप smoke करते हो, now you feel like having chai. So it's anchored. It's bound with each other. And same as with like your boss is yelling at you. So you are in pain, suffering हो रही है आपको. You want to avoid that, so you go out and smoke. So ये दो चीजें ही हो रही है. So yeah, that's what's really going on.
सो इट्स बेसिकली द विशियस साइकिल कि एक को सेटिस्फाई करने के लिए दूसरे की मदद लेनी पड़ रही है, फिर वो हो रहा है तो
Yeah,
इसकी मदद लेनी पड़ रही है. सो इट्स लाइक इंटरडिपेंडेंसी, टू मच ऑफ इट.
yeah. The sad part ये है ना अनुष्का, इन सब चीजों में आई फील कि हम हम बोलते हैं कि हम कुछ कर रहे हैं एंजॉय करने के लिए, पर हम वो कर भी नहीं रहे. इफ अ स्मोकर was enjoying cigarette, really enjoying it, I actually don't think that they need to be told to stop smoking. But reality ये है कि most smokers are not even enjoying it because they're not even present with that experience of smoking. आप देख लो जाकर, if you are observing any smoker, they are either on their phone scrolling while smoking. तो वो ड्रैग तो कर रहे हैं, डोपामिन तो जा रहा है, but they're not present with that experience of even that pleasure they are hitting. They're just scrolling, or they're talking on the phone non-stop and smoking, or they're talking and doing chai-sutta and having this conversation, but they're never really in it. आप अपने लाइफ का इतना बड़ा पार्ट यू आर सैक्रिफाइसिंग, सो मच, एंड you're fine, you're getting the pleasure, but are you really staying with that experience? और यहीं पे है, like I would always bring back this truth कि attention, your focus about your experience in the present moment, वो ही जब आप उसके साथ में नहीं रहते, then you are missing out on the whole point of whatever you're doing in life, whether it is smoking or drinking or whatever you're doing. You're not with it, you're just lost somewhere else. So यही यही हो रहा है लोगों के साथ में most of the times.
राइट, मतलब जो कर रहे हो उसका भी कुछ फायदा नहीं है, बिकॉज एट द एंड ऑफ द डे इट्स, आई डोंट नो वेयर इज इट गोइंग, इट्स जस्ट अफेक्टिंग योर हेल्थ ओनली. एक्सपीरियंस तो कुछ मिल ही
Yeah,
नहीं रहा है उसमें.
yeah,
Now,
you're paying the
let
price but you're not getting it. Hmm.
right, you're not getting it. True. So now, to name a few typical problems that you think that non-smokers don't understand about the smokers, what would be such
um,
typical problems or issues?
I think most non-smokers don't understand that smokers do actually have a lot of guilt and shame about smoking. They try to put a brave front and they would say, no, I'm just doing it, it's fine, I can't quit. But if you actually were to investigate and honestly give them space and not judge them for smoking, तो आपको पता चलेगा कि they actually have a lot of guilt about smoking and also a lot of shame about it. Number two, what I've seen is they a lot of smokers actually hide. Their families don't know that they smoke, and that's a big one. Like I did not realize this till I started working in this key. That's a big one. Almost I would say 50-50. 50% of people, their families know, but 50%, that's a big number. They may be married for 3 years, 4 years, बच्चे हैं घर पे, किसको पता नहीं है, they're hiding and doing it. So there's a lot of shame and guilt and hiding that's going on. And third, I've also seen that smokers do struggle. At least a good number of them do struggle with um, basic things like bowel movements normally in the morning. उनसे नहीं हो पाता if they've habituated and anchored that habit with the regular bowel movements and like going to the loo in the morning. अगर उन्हें वो habit लगा रखा है, so they struggle with that one thing. And these are some things that most people who don't smoke don't understand about smokers. I have a lot of people come to me and say, can you please make my husband quit or make my son or my father quit? And my answer to all of them is that it really breaks my heart when they reach out because they truly desire their loved ones to give up smoking. But the answer to that is just love them enough to be available for them and tell them that, hey, you can come and talk to me if you need to, without me giving you any advice or any lecture or tell you what to do. I can just listen to you. If you want to just say something, I'll hear you out, and you're welcome to speak to me about anything. That one thing would do so much more for that loved one of theirs to quit smoking than telling them to quit smoking, because it does not help to do that at all. They don't have an idea of what they're going through.
Think what you said of hiding with from parents, like I also know a few examples who are open about drinking but never about smoking. So I mean, there is definitely a taboo around all of that, and I don't know, like per se, if in my view also, if you would say that, yeah, I mean, I do judge people who smoke because, like, I have never understood as a non-smoker, I've never understood the experience of it. What, like, or like you said, the problems that people face. And I've never also wanted to understand basically. So that is also a thing that, like you said, to include people, people there can be different various types where someone's going through something or someone's just doing it for the sake of doing it कि to just experience it कि देखते हैं क्या होता है मतलब इतने लोग कर रहे हैं क्यों करते हैं करके देखते हैं आज करके that type also but I
Yeah.
feel कि like what you said I understand कि हाँ we should definitely be there for our loved ones who are into this thing and we should support them बट आई ऑल्सो फील कि वो ऐसा ना हो जाए कि फिर कोई इसमें बचे ही ना कि टू पुल यू आउट फ्रॉम दैट थिंग और टू टेल यू दैट समथिंग इज
Hmm.
नॉट राइट
Hmm.
if you know that the person or the smoker is willing to give up and is trying to give up but is not able to, that is fine, that is where the support of your family or your loved ones come into picture. But for
Yes.
someone who's not bothered, who just feels कि क्या ही फर्क पड़ जाएगा मेरे को तो जो करना है मैं करूंगा.
Hmm.
So for such kind of mentality, I don't think this support is needed or they seek for such support.
Yeah. Um, I mean, at the beginning itself, I said, right, there are two kinds of smokers. Ones who are okay with it, like they're going with it, and let them do it, because no one likes to be woken up with force, right? When you're sleeping at night and it's early morning, if you decided because you wanted to wake up early because you have to go for an exciting trek somewhere, then you are excited. You will be happy to put the alarm and wake up. But if someone was to wake you up because they think it's time for you to wake up, you don't like it. Like, you want to wake up and you want to wake up. I think that's the case with people who are doing things and they're okay with it. They're not woken up. They choose to do it that way, and it's okay. I have no judgment towards them, only love for them. And sometimes I feel, I agree with you, like in families as well, sometimes we need to let people crash and burn. And it's hard for us. We'll say, no, you must not do it. But sometimes tough love means that they'll need to hit the rock bottom. And when they hit the rock bottom, they're like, oh, okay, iske niche kahan jana abhi? Or kahan, like, you've already hit the rock bottom. Now the only way is to rise up, and then they'll ask you for support. And if you've been there with them, they'll reach out to you for help. तो वही है कि yeah, sometimes people need to bond to experience that कि हाँ, and those are the clients who actually do so well in therapy, like, because they've hit the rock bottom. They're like, there's nowhere else to go but up, so I need your support now. So yeah, that. But I've also, I would add to it that it is also the clients who've got people who nag them, like partners, parents, who go like, you should quit smoking, you should quit smoking. The ones who have those people in their life, even if they want to quit, they still will keep going back to it, because that same sin and the negative connotation being added by people around them, it lures them back into it. It keeps them. There's an energy in that that you put by trying to resist it, even from the family members. But when you simply let go, and iska bhi data kafi hai. Look at Netherlands, for example, in terms of drug use. They just, compared to, like, let's say a country like India, or compared to a country like Iran, compared to a country like Afghanistan, जहाँ पे drug abuse मतलब पागलों की तरह हो रहा है, are the ones who have got the highest amount of restriction in their country. Iran, highest opioid heroin addiction. Afghanistan, highest addiction. वहीं पे तो रिस्ट्रिक्शंस हैं, और जहां पे रिस्ट्रिक्शन नहीं है, जहां पे उसको उन्होंने डिक्रिमिनलाइज किया हुआ, लीगलाइज किया हुआ, वहां पे पीपल आर चिलिंग, दे आर लाइक, कर रहे हैं लोग, और बहुत सारे लोग नहीं भी कर रहे हैं. सो हैविंग दैट फ्रीडम, our internal intelligence will always lead us to the right path if we don't have that unnecessary restriction pushing us from outside, especially in our families or authority figures doing that to us. That's just been my experience of working with clients, and in my own personal experience. When you leave people and let them face the consequence of what their actions are, and just tell them that, hey, like, your actions and your consequences are yours, but I am still here for you as a friend, as a family. But whatever you're going through, you have to go through. I'm with you in your suffering. That's it. But give them the freedom to choose, anyways.
Yeah, I mean, I agree to that. You have to like let go of people. बोलते हैं ना, घर वालों को तो for granted ही लेके रखते हैं हम. When they are nagging you, you'll be like, ये लोग का तो काम ही यही है. And then
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you know they are the ones to go back to. So that is, I think, yeah, with most of people. So, I mean, since you were telling me about some of your clients, can you like tell me a transformative story of one of your clients? Like, we don't need to know the names, but something that'll also help our listeners to understand what has been the journey of someone who's wanted to quit smoking, and through your typical hypnotherapy session has moved towards quitting smoking, and what techniques per se do you use to help these clients overcome their addiction?
Yeah. One of the stories that I can think of right now, and I won't name her, she reached out to me when she was in her mid 40s. And literally, like, when जब उन्होंने start किया call, I first heard her, मुझे लगा कि I'm talking to some 60-year-old woman. Like, her voice was so old and she's struggling to breathe, and she already had developed COPD, which is chronic obstructive pulmonary disorder. It's very bad state for your lungs, right? She could barely breathe properly. And at that time वो एक 20 से 40 सिगरेट दिन का वो स्मोक कर रही थी. Single mom, relationship issues, and in चीजों के बारे में I didn't know much when we started the call, what's her status and everything. But when we got into the call, I realized that पिछले 3 सालों से she has been working on herself, taking different healing modalities, therapies, everything, and कहीं ना कहीं पे उनका असर भी हो रहा था. She's been changing, but there's one thing in her life which she thought is the one thing, that smoking, if she can quit, the same thing we've been talking about, ये निकल गया तो लाइफ ठीक हो जाएगा, without even considering कि there are other issues in life. ठीक है, and we started talking. The call went on for 2.5 hours. The I'll straight away come to the end of the call. The beautiful thing about it was that in the middle of the call, end of the call, she was free of it in that one call. But the middle of the call ke beech mein, she went, I just need to smoke right now. Like, and she was very emphatic about it. Like, mujhe karna hi padega. Like, I'm just so same thing as I said to you. I didn't say no to her. I said, yeah, you can smoke if you want to, and that shocked her actually. Because she thought that I would say no to her. I said, if that's what you want to do, you can do it. But could you tell me exactly what is making you say that? And then she went internal, she checked, and she started like she was in so much of pain or suffering in that moment with that urge. It was the most animated urge I've seen so far in my career. She's just not able to sit and she's moving. I'm feeling this, I'm feeling that, I'm feeling something in my throat, is something is scratching in the back of my throat. Koi to nakhun chala raha hai andar se, all of that stuff. And I sat there, I said, you're safe, you're fine. Just describe that stuff for me. Tell me more about your experience. What's going on for you? And she kept describing. And as she did that, पता नहीं कब she started talking about some episode from when she was 5 years old. उसी के बीच में that story started, and she said that I feel so trapped right now, and I can, like, she could see one of her parents had already passed on, and she was just 5 years old, and she was locked inside the room by the other parent because they thought that why traumatize a child. Maybe I don't know what they thought, but they just put that child, and she could see from the window but could not go and be with that, um, with the corpse of the parent who had deceased. So she kept banging the door, but no one was opening, and she felt trapped. For a 5-year-old child, that is helplessness at best, like real scenario of like I can't help myself. I've lost someone I want to be, and she's crying, and no one is opening the door. And that experience was trapped inside of her as a trauma. And when she discovered smoking in her early 20s or late teens, 19 के आसपास उन्होंने smoking start करा था, what her subconscious mind decided about smoking was, this is that one friend in my trapped state which is inside her, right? She has not released that. So smoking became a companion whenever she felt trapped. तो एक तो ये सारी जो experiences लाइफ में आती है हमारी, like when we have an experience like this, and we may not have a drastic experience in all our stories, but it doesn't matter. It's something that remains unprocessed. इसको फील नहीं करना है हमको, करके हम उसको पैक करके साइड में रख देते हैं. We forget about these memories so much. हम लोग उसको इतना पैक करते हैं कि हमको याद भी नहीं होता कि अंदर से मेमोरीज हैं. Now, when it came up and she sat through it, she sat with her experience, she cried and she released, and she came out on the other side. She felt such peace. वो इतनी, her face was glowing, and I cannot actually emphasize on that. Actually, her face started glowing when she came through from that. But the beauty of it, the end of the call is she went away, and a month later, she said that I'm not with the person I was with when I came to you for the call, because I realized that I don't need to go out with unavailable men, because unconsciously unavailable men made me feel like I'm still trapped, and I needed to feel that because I had not fully experienced being trapped, and hence I needed cigarette because cigarette was my companion and I was feeling trapped. And so now I don't feel the need to feel trapped because I have experienced what it is like, and I know that I'm strong enough to stand away, like stand out of any traps. Like I can release myself from it. And so अब जरूरत नहीं है unavailable men की, और जब वो नहीं है trap feel कराने के लिए तो smoking की क्या जरूरत है? This is the depth I'm talking about. Tell me, where did we talk about nicotine, dopamine, we didn't do any of that exercise, breathing things, nothing. Today the reality is it's been over 2 years. The beautiful thing is that she had a product that she had designed. She's in her corporate job, she's doing really well, but she had a dream to make a product that she had designed, a beauty product. It's an oil to help with wrinkles and stuff. It's really good fragrance oil, beautiful product. I still use it. I buy it from her. She had not launched it in the market. It was sitting as an idea, selling it to like friends and families around. But she went back and she had the motivation to sell it on scale, and she's doing that as well on the side now. And so that's the beauty of it. Our energy is trapped with these kind of traumas. We don't realize it's eating us, and our focus is then drained into soothing ourselves, in her case finding relationships and then experiencing that. तो वो तो जब उसका volcano release हो गया and the peace came, she didn't have to go looking for being trapped, and then didn't have to look for a friend while she's trapped in something. And that's how unique each person is, how unique two smokers are. No two smokers smoke for the same reason, and which is why then people talk about why apps don't work every time, because apps need intention, and you really need to become very mindful about yourself and very committed to yourself to do that. But people, every smoker smokes for their own reason. They have their own story. We are all so unique. It's like our fingerprint. So yeah, that's the story that stands out very powerfully for me.
That was definitely a great story that you've told us. And when I was also trying to gauge the whole situation, I actually had goosebumps when I could also feel her pain and the journey that she narrated to you and how beautifully she came out just by talking through. And I think this is something, this emotional connect is only that we can get through a person and with a person. This cannot happen with AI. This cannot happen with some random apps. It cannot happen with myself alone. I need someone to guide. I mean, like people need someone to guide them, to tell them
Yeah,
what is. It's okay not to tell them what's right and wrong. That's a different thing. But just to be with their perspective, try to navigate through things, and like that's how beautifully it comes out. And I'm so glad, that she could come out of it and she realized that certain things which didn't need to happen, she could come out of it. That was beautiful.
yeah. The best part about that, Anushka, is we never discussed about her relationship even once in the
Yeah,
call.
yeah,
That's a byproduct, and that's what happens when we, जब हम repress करते हैं खुद को, तो we are affecting so many areas of our life, and it is not very different. Another client of mine, I didn't know that he was separated from his wife when he came to me to work with me. This was in March 2023, and after 6 7 months of finishing the work, he said that my wife says that I'm a different person. She not only came back, but she said the person I left and went back to she went back to her, वो मायके चली गई अपने, right? And she's like, when I came back, you're a different person. And this is the impact. Like it affects different parts of our life. And I want to definitely emphasize on what you just said there. Like I was talking about this with my partner today, who's also a therapist herself, that AI and these things are good to kind of bounce off your ideas, but they don't have what we as human beings inherently need, and that is connection. हमको सिर्फ permission चाहिए होता है. And when someone sits with us and they have given themselves the permission to be okay with anything that comes up. So I've given myself the permission to be just present with you without judging you. So whatever comes, comes, right? That permission that I give myself allows you to give that permission to yourself. And you might struggle with that, but it's my experience to just make sure that you are able to give that permission to yourself. She was able to give the permission to herself to be okay, because life will bring challenges where she'll feel trapped, but she knows that she has done it in a session. That subconscious knowing, जो आपको वो पता होता है कि अपने साइकिल पे बहुत स्टार्टिंग में पेडल करने लगे हैं, एंड दैट पॉइंट व्हेन यू नो कि नाउ यू कैन राइड, यू गॉट इट, दैट इज नोइंग, यू रियलाइज दैट. सो वो उसको पता लग गया उस सेशन में कि बॉस आई कैन हैंडल दी सिचुएशंस इन लाइफ, एंड दैट्स पावर. आई
I
डोंट
agree.
नीड टू.
That's power.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
power.
And that's when you feel the most alive. You feel like a phoenix has risen up from ashes. You
Yeah,
feel like you can run the whole world, you own the whole world, and I mean, it's
yeah,
just you. So yeah, that's a beautiful feeling. So
yeah.
now, I
Whatever is thrown at you, you're ready for it. Like you're ready for it. It's not like life gets better all of a sudden. You like begin to recognize, like you said, yeah, your own power. Like I can handle it. No,
yeah,
that's the most beautiful thing. Yeah.
true. So now, just to like give us your final thoughts or like nuskas that you would want to let the listeners know who are actually struggling with the smoking addiction.
I would say the first thing is accept. Accept that you have this addiction as a situation that's going on. It's never a problem to accept. It's the denial that keeps the habit going. So if you feel that nahi yaar life mein kuch sahi nahi chal raha, it's okay to accept it, and then you go like, okay, है ये issue now, इसको solve करना है. That's number one step, to accept to yourself. And not smoking, जब मैं बोल रहा हूँ accept, don't just accept smoking as a problem, but accept the fact that स्मोकिंग तुम्हारी लाइफ में इसीलिए है क्योंकि तुम कुछ चीजों को हैंडल नहीं कर पा रहे. and and ask yourself what are those situations. It's not very hard to see. Just observe yourself for 24 hours and you'll get the answer कि अब किस टाइम पे स्मोक ज्यादा करते हो. लाइक डू यू स्मोक अंडर द स्ट्रेस ऑफ वर्क, when you're stressed out with your partner, you're emotionally upset, when you're bored, when you're lonely, isolation. आजकल तो ये बड़ी प्रॉब्लम है, like being bored and lonely and isolated, right? So do you smoke more in those occasions? Do you smoke more when you are actually happy and excited, right? So write down those moments where you smoke more, and accept that you're not able to fully indulge in these experiences. And I say indulge, I really mean indulge. Even sadness is an indulgence. Tragedy is an indulgence. That's why we have tragedy movie and stories and plays, right? Music that are tragic. But आपको वो indulge करने के लिए भी, if you need a crutch like smoking, then accept it कि वहां पे problem है, not smoking. कि ये क्यों है कि ऐसे इमोशंस जो 8 बिलियन पीपल ऑन द प्लैनेट कैन एंजॉय और कैन मैनेज एंड पास थ्रू, तुमको उसके लिए क्रच की जरूरत है. क्या है वो? एक्सेप्ट दैट पार्ट फर्स्ट. सो गो फॉर दैट, अंडरस्टैंड दैट. एंड थर्ड इज set an intention. This is so underrated and yet so powerful. To set an intention ki I do want to experience these things as a human being. Like you're here to experience life in its totality. आपको पिक्चर के सिर्फ कॉमेडी सीन्स या सेक्स सीन्स नहीं देखना है, आपको पूरा पिक्चर देखना है, विच विल हैव ड्रामा, टेंशन, action, suspense, thriller. Enjoy every bit of it, right? So set the intention to say, I'm going to live life fully and I want to find the truth about myself. I want to really serve myself. Number four, recognize that you do have a rhyme and reason to be here in body. मतलब इमेजिन करो कि 8 बिलियन लोग हैं यहाँ पे, बट तुम जहां पे हो उस स्पेस में तो कोई और बंदा आके रुक ही नहीं सकता. लाइक इन योर स्किन, no one can take that. Like you have a weight on this planet, and you have a space on this planet, and you are in this time, and no one can just replace Anushka and stand in her place. Like you are in that place. So there is a very specific reason why you're here. और जब वो लाइफ आप से तो वो ऑटोमेटिकली एक्सप्रेस करना चाहती है आपके थ्रू, बट आप उसको रोकते हो when you're not dealing or not allowing certain experiences to come through, and you call them bad or negative. So let things happen. Number five, choose to experience the experiences. So observe, let it happen, and do not try to suppress or repress things, but just observe and call it out. And to observe, the practical step to observe something is to call it out. जब आप उसको call out नहीं करते, तो आप observe नहीं कर रहे हो, तब आप वो emotion हो. जब आप कहते हो कि I'm feeling sad right now or I'm feeling angry right now, अपने जैसे ऑब्जर्व कर लिया, आपने आपके बीच में और उस फीलिंग के बीच में एक स्पेस क्रिएट कर लिया है, क्योंकि आप उसके ऑब्जर्वर बन गए हो. बट व्हेन यू आर इन इट एंड यू डोंट कॉल इट, यू आर इन इट एंड यू आर ट्राइंग टू फिक्स इट, you are sadness and you are anger at that time. So observing, that's why I say write down your thoughts, write down your feelings, and importantly, what's your unique experience, what's your sensation. एंगर आपको फील कहाँ पे हो रहा है? आपके पेट में फील हो रहा है, छाती में फील, चेस्ट में फील हो रहा है, हैंड्स में फील हो रहा है? व्हाट इज योर एक्सपीरियंस? राइट दैट डाउन. बी द ऑब्जर्वर. And the last part is, while you can do this on your own, it does take certain amount of motivation, and you know that it is easy to just turn towards cigarette, which is just there. This is work. And so it's good to reach out to people who are doing this, who reach out to your friends, reach out to a support group if you can, reach out to a professional. I'm here, like, reach out, so that if you really want to go after what is happening with you, and if you really want to unlock that part so that you can affect different areas of your life, and you can be honest about it, right? कहाँ कहाँ पे इसका impact है? Your relationship is actually in tatters, your health is going down, your finances are burning from one side, your entire capacity to fulfill yourself, spiritual growth, सब सभी तो सबकी लगी पड़ी है. तो now accept it, and then uh, invest in that, because eventually I would say that ये values पे भी होता है कि what do we value more in this case? Is it that little bit of momentary relief, or is it your fulfillment as a person? Because at the end of the day, if you've come close to dying at any point, you will recognize that if you've ever been close to dying, you will realize that in that moment, that little escape, it doesn't even come to your mind. What you think about is your family, people you love and you care about, and the good times and the bad times you spent with them. So वहीं पे regrets होते हैं. तो it's good to think about those things right now, and we can't escape that. That's coming for all of us. That's so yeah. These are the few things I would say is a good place to begin your journey to quit smoking.
Wow, those were some quite deep insights and nuskas that Sunny has definitely shared with all the listeners, and I hope it helps you in the most impactful way, the most influential ways. And I just hope that if you are someone dealing with this situation, I just wish for you to get out of it as and when you want for it to happen. So now we are moving on to a fun segment that is true or false. And I'm going to throw out some statements at you and just let me know ki if it's a true or a false statement. So are you excited?
Very excited. I feel restricted to say true false, but yeah, I'll just say true false. I'll stick to it.
Yes. So, all right. So vape is a good replacement for smoking.
False.
Do NRTs, or as we say, nicotine replacement therapies like patches, gums, pills help in quitting smoking
I won't say a hard false, but I'd say maybe
to some extent?
to a certain degree. Yeah.
Okay. People put on weight when they quit smoking.
True. I wish I could add more to it, but if they do it the right way, they won't. But if they do it to suppress it, and yeah, then they end up putting on more weight because they replace one painkiller with another. They're using more distractions. So yeah, they put on weight with that. Sugar, food, yeah.
Willpower is the most important requirement to quit smoking.
False. It's attention.
Smoking just a few cigarettes a day is harmless.
False.
Your body starts repairing itself within 20 minutes of quitting smoking.
True.
Quitting smoking can make you feel more stressed.
False.
All right. No, you were quite restricted in saying true or false. I could feel it. You wanted to say
Yeah,
out more. But
I do. I do.
but nevertheless, I think this has been an incredible, enlightening conversation with you, and you've shed light on the addictions, the healing, and the personal transformation journeys that you've shared with us today. And it's definitely rare to encounter someone who works with such dedication. And as we can see, you are like a result driven oriented person, with your approach to like just take it slow, result driven, but taking it slow as and when the client wants to cope up. And that's how you guide your clients. And I think it's more of like giving your client the freedom to take their time and heal and transform. And I think ये काफी एक renewed sense of purpose and fulfillment है. And I think that's why you have such amazing client success stories. Thank you so much for joining in. Thank you for giving your time. And it was an amazing session.
Thank you, Anushka. It was lovely. I enjoyed answering and your questions, and even this conversation that we had overall was beautiful.
If today's episode resonated with you, or if you know someone who is struggling with an addiction like this, what we spoke about, please do share this episode with them, and so that it helps them in some way or the other. And definitely remember that change is possible, and the right guidance can make all the difference. So, yes, I mean, I'm going to attach Sunny's social media handles in the description box below. If you feel you got to reach out to him, please, please, please do. And if you've enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more such thought provoking conversations. Thank you so much for tuning in. Follow me on Instagram at Nuskas with Anushka. And until next time, stay curious, stay receptive. Bye bye.